In today's class, you will be able to review to find the volumes of cylinder, cone, sphere, hemisphere, and also use them to solve combination of solids. So here let's quickly recap the formulae. The first one is area of rectangle. Area of rectangle. You know that what is the formula for finding the area of rectangle, but why did I mention means because when you are computing volume of a prism or volume of a pyramid, by the time the bases are in the shape of a square, rectangle or triangle, by the time you may have to use. Area of triangle is half times base times height. Next, volume of prism. Please remember the difference between the prism and pyramid. If you take a pyramid, whatever the shape of base may be, and it ends up with a pointed tip at the top. Whereas prism, whatever the shape of the base and whatever the shape of the top, these two are one and same. So that is prism. Next, volume of cylinder. Already I discussed in the previous classes that volume of a cylinder is pi times radius square times height. This is what I explained. Next, when it comes to cone, it is 1/3 volume of a cylinder or 1/3 pi r square h. Quickly, volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cube, and volume of a hemisphere is half of 4/3 pi r cube. And in addition to this one, you have to remember these basic rules. These rules are, while computing the combination of solids, find the volume separately. Already in my previous session, I explained that suppose if you are given, let's say that a cone is surmounted by a hemisphere. Okay, so you have to find the volume of hemisphere and volume of cone, these two separately. Then you have to add them. So this volume and this volume are to be computed separately, then add them, you get the total volume. Okay, and coming to the second point, this is really important that most of the time you are tricked by this point because if you solve the problem and if you end up with a wrong answer, please go back and check whether the diameter is given or radius is given, because I know that majority of the students, especially when they are taking a test in a tension mode, what they do is they find the volume taking the diameter in the place of radius. So always look at the question. If diameter is given, don't think what the question is. First you find what the radius is. You know that radius is half of the diameter. And the last point, while considering the measurements, double check them that you are taking the correct values. I'll give an example. For this one. In fact, I mentioned in my previous session also. Suppose, say that, there is a cone and this is surmounted on a hemisphere. Okay, and say that radius of the hemisphere, just a minute, let me minimize a little. Oops. Okay. Okay, let's say that the radius of the hemisphere is 7 inches and the total height is given. The total height is given as say some 20 inches. So while computing the volume of this cone, we take 1/3 pi times radius square times height, right? Suppose if you are finding the volume of a cone, that is 1/3 pi radius square times height. So 1/3 pi value is 3.14 or 22/7. Radius I see that's 7. And what is the height means? If you take 20, this is not correct. Because if the radius is 7 units, please notice that the total height of the solid is given. The total height of the solid is given as 20 inches. So, if the radius is 7 units, then what is the remaining part? This is what we have to compute. If the radius is 7 up to here, what is the remaining part means? This is going to be 13 units. You have to subtract. Okay, so always you have to check whether the measurements, what are the given measurements are there, are they correct or not. So let's quickly jump to one of the examples. One moment. These all are the basic questions. So let me start with the first one. First one means, okay, let me start with the prism. So volume of prism equals to area of base times height. Okay. So area of base means you can take any base, for that matter even you can consider this part also as base. I see that this is in the form of a rectangle 5 centimeters long and 2 centimeters wide. Therefore, the area of a rectangle, I know that it is length times width, therefore it is 5 times 2 and height. Then here the question may arise that is this representing height or not? Just assume that you bought a loaf of bread, then it is similar to this shape, and if you make the loaf to stand, then this 8 centimeters become as the height, right? So in the place of height, this is 8. Otherwise you may think that this is the length. There is nothing wrong, but you can flip these values here and there. So here 5 times 2, 10, 10 times 8, that is 80 cubic centimeters. That's the volume. It's a straight question. And coming to the cylinder question, volume of cylinder. Volume of cylinder equals to, you know that it is pi times radius square times height. Okay, so pi, let it be pi only, because most of the time we express the final answer in terms of pi. And the radius square, it is 10 square times what is height means you can see that height is 15. Okay, now in fact in my previous sessions also I mentioned that purposefully I made a mistake. Here the radius is not 10. Please see that here in the given diagram this 10 centimeters are indicating the diameter. It's indicating the diameter. It's not the radius. Okay, as I mentioned before, if possible in the beginning of the question itself, you see whether the given, if especially circle, cylinder, cone or sphere, whether the diameter is given or radius is given, that's what you have to check. So here diameter is 10, therefore what is the radius means? Radius is, it is half of that, which is 5 centimeters. Therefore, this is not the right one. This is not the right one. So pi times radius is 5 centimeters square times height. So let me not take the value of pi, let it be pi. 5 square gives me 25. 25 times 15. So 250 and 125, that gives me 375. So 375. So the answer is 375 pi cubic. We are computing the volume, therefore it's expressed in cubic units. Now coming to volume of this cone. Volume of cone. Okay. Volume of cone equals to, due to lack of space, just I am writing very close, 1/3 pi times radius square times height. Therefore 1/3 pi, what is a radius means? Please notice that once again here diameter is given. This is not the radius. So I see that diameter equals to 8 feet. Therefore radius is half of 8. That gives me 4 feet. Therefore this times radius is 4 square and height, you can see that 9 units. Use your calculator. I guess you should end up 4 square 16. 16 times 9 divided by 3, that is 48 pi expressed in cubic units, therefore cubic feet. Okay. Now a couple of questions here. I see that the left side diagram, it is a pyramid. It's very easy to identify that if there is a pointed tip at the top, that's a pyramid. So volume of a pyramid equals to, it's easy to remember the formula also, because cylinder and cone, if you take, cone is 1/3. In the same way, prism and pyramid, you take, pyramid is 1/3 of the volume of the prism. So here 1/3 area of base, I'm writing too close, I'm sorry for that, times height. Therefore 1/3, what is the area of base means? I see that the length and width are given, so it must be a rectangle. So rectangle means length times width, so 3 times 2. And what is the height means? You can see that 6 units. 6 units. So make use of calculator. You know that in butterfly method, we can take 3 divided by 3, that gives me 1. So 1 times 2 equals to 2. 2 times 6, 12. So 12 cubic units. So here in this question, it is not mentioned whether it is inches, centimeters or feet. So just I'm taking as units. Next one, volume of sphere equals to 4/3 pi r cube. As I mentioned before, always check whether diameter is given or radius given in the beginning of every question where circular shapes are involved. I see that here diameter is given as 10 centimeters. Therefore, okay, diameter equals to 10 centimeters. Radius is half of that, so half of 10, that gives me 5 centimeters. So 4/3 pi, radius is 5 cube. 125, 250, is it 500? Yes. So you may make use of calculator. You'll end up 500 over 3 pi cubic units, so cubic centimeters. Okay, so again I'm repeating, this is not a really hard question, but one thing you have to notice that in the beginning of the question itself, you see whether radius is given or diameter is given. I see the diameter is given, so you know how to find the radius, which is half of the diameter. Once when you get it, it's easy. The next question is again the combination of solids. So in this one, I see that there are two parts. One is the upper portion is a hemisphere, which means half of a sphere, and the lower portion is this is a cylinder. Okay, so always see whether the radius is given or the diameter is given. I see that this 10 is representing the radius, so nothing to worry. And here the 16 is the height of the cylinder. Okay, so here h is 16. So first of all, let me start with the volume of hemisphere. Please remember, always check whether the diameter is given or radius is given. So volume of hemisphere is 2/3 pi r cube. So it is 2/3 pi, radius is 10 cube. You know, 10 cube is 1000. 1000 times 2 is 2000. Let me write the answer here. 2000 over 3 pi cubic units. So I'm done with part 1. And the second one is volume of cylinder. Therefore, it is pi times radius square h, stands for height. So pi times radius is 10 square, height is 16. 10 square gives me 100 times 16. So it is 1600 pi. So this is my volume of the second part, that is the cylinder. Now, what is the total volume means? You have to add. Here, I'm taking my calculator, which is 2000 over 3. 2000 over 3 plus 1600, that gives me 6800 over 3. So I'm using my calculator. 6800 over 3 pi cubic unit. Let's quickly jump to the next question. The next one is again, I see that there are two solids. The upper one is it's a cone, and the lower one is a cylinder. Therefore, I identified what to compute. So first I have to find volume of cone. I know the formula, which is 1/3 pi r square h. And the lower portion is, it is a cylinder, so volume of cylinder, which is pi r square h. Before starting any calculations, always look whether the given value is radius or diameter. Look at the diagram. Is it radius or diameter? I see that it is diameter. Therefore, first and foremost thing is you compute what is the radius. Diameter is 11. Radius is half of that. So you may take 5.5 or 11 over 2 either. I'm taking here 5.5. Now just plug in these values. 1/3 pi, what is radius means 5.5 square times height of the cone. You can see that it is 9 yards. Please, please, please don't forget in the beginning of the question itself, always check whether radius is given or diameter is given. So here height of the cone is 9. Then you can compute. I'm not showing what the answer is, but I'm sure you know how to compute it. Second one is volume of cylinder is pi times radius. Just now we computed here. You know that it is 5.5 square times what is the height of this cylinder. What is the height of this cylinder means you see that that is 13 yards. You have to be really careful because here height of cone is 9 and height of cylinder is 13. You see that, so don't mix it up. Now you can compute using the calculator. I'm not showing the result because I expect you to do this one. And then sum of these two volumes gives you the total volume of the entire solid. Total volume. So it is left to you to solve it. Now let me go to the next question. Given a cylinder with circumference of 7 pi, this one is different because most of the time we are given either the radius or diameter, but here circumference is given. Interesting. Okay, so cylinder. So let me quickly draw a cylinder. Then not so good. Acceptable figure. Then, okay. So here the circumference is given. And you are asked to find the volume. I know that volume of a cylinder equals to pi times radius square times height. So what is the radius means? I don't know. Because radius is not given and circumference is given but radius is not given, so I cannot take radius here. Okay, so for that we have to solve separately for radius. So circumference of a circle equals to 7 pi. It is 7 pi. This is what given in the question. But I know that circumference formula is 2 times pi times r, 2 pi r equals to 7 pi. Listen carefully. I know that circumference formula is 2 pi r. Area of a circle is pi r square and circumference is 2 pi r. Now here how to isolate r. You know, we want the radius value. Then how to isolate means divide by 2 pi because 2 pi is multiplying. Then if I divide by 2 pi on both these sides, what happens is this one gets cancelled. Then pi and pi gets cancelled. 7 over 2, that gives me 3.5. Now this 3.5 may be taken in the place of here radius, in the place of radius. Therefore you get that pi times 3.5 square times, and what is the height means height is given as 8 feet. Therefore that goes here times 8. Now 3.5 times 3.5, that is 12.25. Let me multiply 12.25 times 8, that is 98. Therefore I used my calculator here at this point. 98 pi cubic units. The units are feet, therefore it is cubic feet. So again I'm repeating here. radius is not given but circumference is given. So what is circumference means that that is the boundary line of a circle. So what is circumference formula means, you have to remember this one, the circumference of a circle. I hope you remember that it is 2 pi r, it's not pi r square. Then how to isolate radius means 2 pi is multiplying with radius, then we have to divide. That way then we eliminate the unwanted values. Therefore I got here the value of the radius equals to 7 pi over 2 pi. After cancellation I ended up with 3.5. Right, let me go to the next one. Again, a sphere with a circumference is 14 pi inches. Then what is the capacity? Remember, capacity or how much material it can hold, these kind of questions, these are all one and same. So you technically are asked to find what is the volume. So let me take the first part, which is a circumference. So if you are given circumference, first take whatever the value is given. I see that 14 pi is the circumference. So let me take that first. Then circumference formula is 2 times pi times radius. If you want, you can write r, or else you can write radius. 2 times pi times radius equals to 14 pi. Now, how to isolate radius means, you know that 2 pi is multiplying, so division by 2 pi on both the sides. So what happens is 2 pi gets cancelled here. Then radius equals to pi over pi cancelled, 14 over 2, that gives me 7 units. So here 7 inches. Now the question is, what is capacity? Please remember, capacity or volume or how much material it holds, these all leads to the same, that is the volume. So volume of a sphere equals to 4/3 pi times radius cube. In fact, you have to memorize all the formulae. What is radius means, whatever we got radius, that is to be plugged in here, which is 7 cube. I'm not computing this one because take a calculator and you can do that 4 over 3 times 7 cube. Or else let me compute. You do it. Because calculation part either you do or I do, on calculator we will get the same result, right? So let me jump to the next one. So the model is formed of a prism on top, which is half of a cylinder. Please observe carefully that the top is this one is half of a cylinder. Do you see that? It is something like a loaf of bread. And here the units are given that from here to here 5. Therefore, if I take this value as 5 units, okay, whatever the units may be. But notice that this is the diameter. This is going to be the diameter. Therefore, if diameter is 5, what is radius means? Half of that, which is 5 over 2 or 2.5 units. 2.5 units. So you have to find the volume of so we know that volume of a cylinder equals to pi r square h, right? But this is not a full cylinder. Please notice that this is half of a cylinder. Therefore, I have to take half of pi r square h. Now, you know the values half times pi. What is radius means 2.5 square. What is height? Here height means this one represents the height, which is same as this one, which is same as this one. Therefore, the height of the cylinder, half cylinder, is going to be 11 units. Again, I'm not computing this part, I'm leaving it to you. Next, second part of the question is, the lower portion is, it is a prism. So, you are asked to find the volume of prism. So, volume of a prism equals to area of base times height. Or else you can consider this one as a cuboid. So you know length, width and height as 5, 11 and 6. So straight away you can multiply. Or else if you would like to take say any one face, here it is. I see that 5 units at the bottom, and this is 6 units, because opposite values. You see that this is 6 here, and this also is going to be 6. So it is 5 times 6 times what is the height means. In my earlier example also I mentioned that it is something like a loaf of a bread, and if you make this one to stand, this becomes as the height. Therefore times 11. So 5 times 6, 30 times 11. You may use your calculator. 330 cubic millimeters. That's the final answer. Any questions on this? Any questions? Well, it's time to sign off. So one more question is there. Please be careful, and while computing this kind of combination of solids, you have to do separately. This is the volume of a cone and volume of a hemisphere. I am sure that you can do it. Okay? Right. That's it from me for today's class.